In Japanese, the word taiko means big or wide drum. Historically, taiko is an instrument that has been used in Japanese classical music such as the imperial court music of Japan dating back to the 6th century and folk and religious music as in traditional festivals tied to Buddhism and Shintoism. Taiko were used to celebrate plentiful harvests, ward off evil spirits, or guide local fishermen back to shore. Historic picture scrolls also depict taiko at war, where samurai used taiko both to intimidate enemies and as an effective tool to issue commands and coordinate troop movements on the battlefield. The popularized form of taiko often seen today is known as kumi taiko, or ensemble taiko. The style of playing was created by Daihachi Oguchi, who had background in jazz drumming and taiko drumming. After founding his own ensemble Osua Daiko in 1953, he led the spread of modern taiko playing in Japan and eventually North America. Taiko has existed in North America since the arrival of Japanese immigrants in the late 18th and early 19th centuries and were predominantly used in temple and religious contexts. Taiko drumming, however, did not flourish beyond its capacity in the United States until decades after the Second World War. With the bombing of Pearl Harbor, 2 theaters of war in Europe and the Pacific, and the ultimate decision to intern 120,000 individuals of Japanese ancestry on the West Coast during World War II, there was heightened anti-Japanese sentiment among the white American public, making it increasingly difficult and dangerous to embrace one's Japanese heritage and culture. In fact, Japanese American communities encouraged assimilation as a means of survival. This process of acculturation, espousing democratic values, engaging in quote-unquote American culture, meant generations of young Japanese Americans, Nisei and Sansei at the time, grew increasingly distanced from their cultural roots, losing touch with their language, their histories, and parts of their identities. As Japanese American Susan Hayase once said, "If you can understand the World War II concentration camp experience of Japanese people and the effects that has had in real human terms on the Nikkei community to this day, then you can understand the great significance of the upsurge of the American taiko movement." After this lost generation, taiko drumming became a source of ethnic pride among 3rd and 4th generation Japanese Americans, especially from energy garnered during the civil rights movements of the 1960s. The birth of modern North American taiko had its beginnings in 1960 San Francisco with the first-generation Japanese immigrant Seiichi Tanaka. When he first arrived in the United States, Tanaka-sensei was disappointed in the lack of taiko drumming at the annual San Francisco Cherry Blossom Festival. He took it upon himself to bring this tradition to San Francisco, so he traveled back to Japan, where he studied taiko with Daihachi Oguchi. He later came back to the United States, and in 1968, he established the San Francisco Taiko Dojo, founding the first taiko drumming ensemble in North America. In 1969, Masao Kodani established the second North American taiko ensemble, Kanada Taiko in Los Angeles, which even today remains rooted in Buddhist traditions. In 1973, Roy and PJ Hirabayashi, both of whom were sansei, established San Jose Taiko, the third taiko drumming ensemble in North America. An ensemble born out of radical activism of its founders, this is the first taiko group really rooted in the Asian American and ethnic revitalization movements of the 1960s and 70s. Kenny Endo, taiko master of the contemporary era, speaks about the early development of taiko in North America, saying among many of the early Japanese American taiko groups such as Kanada Taiko and San Jose Taiko were young Japanese American activists who saw taiko as a way to assert their newfound cultural pride. In the case of North American taiko groups, because the majority of the groups consist primarily of Japanese American members, the taiko art form provides a basis for cultural pride and connection to their roots. During the early establishment of North American taiko, however, its authenticity of identity within the diaspora was challenged. When training with a Japanese sensei, Roy and PJ were told they'll never be real taiko players. "You're just beer barrel drummers," they were told. This was in reference to the drums they made from wine barrels out of necessity, unlike Japanese drums that were made from a hollowed-out tree trunk. Their sensei's concern with cultural authenticity extended also to their nationality. Having not grown up in Japan and followed the traditional way of studying under a sensei, they were told they would never become Japanese taiko players. In response, PJ recalls saying, "Well, we'll never because we aren't," and realizing for us it was very important that our music be a reflection of who we are, so it was an instrument to be our expression, our voice, for our creativity, our stories, and our experiences. Now, since its arrival in the modern North American consciousness in the 1960s, Taiko has become a salient fixture of the Asian American experience. The alignment of the Taiko movement with grassroots organizing and ethnic revitalization movements of the 1960s and 70s reflected the increasing sense of solidarity and shared history among not only Japanese Americans, but other Asian Americans as well. The rise of Taiko in the 1960s and 70s coincided with the civil rights, Black Power, and Asian American movements, ushering in a generation of Asian American activists who challenged the mother minority assimilationist attitude that had dominated previous generations in the immediate aftermath of World War II. The rise of Taiko, merging with the trend of Asian American solidarity based on a shared history of oppression, became not so much a Japanese American art form as an Asian American one. It contributed to a new Asian American consciousness. The new political awareness and ethnic solidarity of the late 1960s and 70s thus resulted in the formation of Taiko groups which communicated an Asian American voice and became a political tool and a statement of identity. Taiko has become an art that opens up a space of resistance, of raising an authoritative, thunderous presence as a challenge to the historical racialization of Asian Americans as weak, quiet, and incapable. It upsets the cultural myth of the docile Asian. With a strong stance, the physical stamina needed for drumming, the loudness of the drums, and the use of martial arts movements with drumming, this space is anything but quiet. It has developed a particularly special place within the diaspora as an art form that is constantly being innovated and shaped by the multiplicity of narratives that exist in Asian America. It has grown into something that has the capacity to transcend boundaries and enable individuals to reconstruct or restore cultural or ethnic identity by relocating or re-embedding personal identities in different places. Taiko allows you to reconnect to something you never even knew you were missing. So the legacy of North American Taiko continues living on, even in the small town of Oberlin, Ohio, changing the lives of young Asian Americans who seek to disrupt and transform traditional narratives of what exactly that means. That is, to be an Asian American.